Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fourth Presbyterian Church of Chicago. My name is John Shear. I'm the organist and director of music. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here in person or online for this piano recital today by Amy Wirtz. Every Friday at 12:10, we present a concert here. Many are listed on our program and even more on our website or in our concert brochure. So I hope you're able to join us for many concerts in the future. We greatly appreciate contributions, all of which go to continue this concert series. And if we could just take a moment to turn off cell phones and other electronic devices, that way we can enjoy every single note. And so now join me in welcoming Amy Wirtz.
Thank you so much. It is so wonderful to see each and every one of you here. What a pleasure it is to have live music. And also for all of those watching online, it is wonderful to know that you're there too. My name is Amy Wirtz. I'm a pianist. I'm also a composer. And so when I was asked to play at Fourth Presbyterian, I thought, what would be really close to my heart? And I didn't have to think too long before I decided to do a program centered on the work of women composers from Chicago. So that is our theme for today. You just heard Troubled Water by composer Margaret Bonds. She lived and worked in Chicago. She was a great friend of poet Langston Hughes. She had a lot of spiritual influence in her music, as you just heard, that was based on the spiritual Wade in the Water, and was a very talented singer and composer, as you just heard. Now we're going to take it to the present day. I have a nice balance in Chicago. We have such a rich history of music here, so we have composers who are no longer with us and composers who are here with us in this very room. Our next piece is by Kyung-mi Choi. She's sitting right here. Can you wave for everybody? Thank you. She is a composer at Roosevelt University, a professor of composition at Roosevelt University. She's also a poet, an organist, a painter, and she has a degree in chemistry or science in there too. So she is a woman of many, many talents. This piece is called Breathe Life. It is a variation on a theme by Beethoven. I challenge you to hear the Beethoven in there. But what I really love about Kyung-mi's music, of which I have played a lot, is how it uses the piano and really focuses more on what happens after you play the notes. So you hear a lot of waiting in this, but it's very active waiting. You're meant to listen to the resonance of the piano and how the strings vibrate. There are some huge extremes, very loud, very soft, very fast, very slow moments in this piece, Breathe Life. I'm going to pair that with the third piece on the program. I'm going to play the two with very little pause in between, because I feel that they go together, they complement each other very nicely. The second piece is called Free Fall by another composer, Osnet Netzer, who is sitting right there. So lovely to have you both with us today. The piece also does some of the same things that Breathe Life does, in which it travels the whole piano from high to low. It has some very loud sounds and some very soft sounds. However, it has no silence at all. It's very busy the whole time. The Free Fall song, by the way, is a world premiere. It has never been played for a live audience before, so you're all here to witness that. Without further ado, here are Breathe Life and Free Fall. Thank you so much to all the composers on our program today. They've been so generous with their music and with giving me feedback before the concert and everything like that. Our next piece is also by a living composer. Regina, are you here? Oh, there you are. All right. We have never met in person, only via email before, so it's nice to meet you. And Regina, I've played a couple of her pieces, one of them notably on a series that I did in March called Women History Month, where I recorded and posted a piece every single day of March on YouTube, composed by a woman. You can find that very easily on YouTube. I have one of Regina's pieces on there, and it's really lovely. This other one I heard on a concert series called Songs About Buildings and Moods, which is a program of Access Contemporary Music, of which I'm also a part, where composers were asked to write pieces about buildings. And Ms. Baiocchi's piece was the First Church of, actually I don't know the name of the church, Deliverance, in one of the neighborhoods of Chicago. And I heard this on the big screen. This is a TV series on PBS. So it's a wonderful performance on that series. I hope you find it online. And I just love the piece so much I had to play it for myself. So this is Deliverance. And I think I'll just play it now. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, and we have another composer in the room. Kathleen Ginther, who goes by Casey, is here somewhere. There she is. She has been around Chicago for many, many years, was a composer at Southern Illinois University, studied with Chicago's own George Flynn at DePaul University. I forgot to mention that we have another professor, Ms. Netzer is a professor at DePaul as well. So there's a lot of cross-pollination going on in this whole program here, which is a lovely thing. So Casey has been composing for years, and every time I've heard her music, I've loved it. She's a member of the Chicago Composers Consortium, as is Kyung-Mi Choi, and they are so active here in Chicago. They bring in composers, they present concerts, and they just generally keep music alive. So this next piece is called River of Dreams. I invite you to think of whatever dream you might associate with the music. It kind of washes over you. I played it for my 11-year-old daughter last night. She said, "I think that's a fever dream." So if that applies to you, then feel free to use that as well. This is River of Dreams by Kathleen Ginther. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for your music. So in putting together today's program, I wanted to balance longer pieces with shorter pieces, more intense pieces with less intense pieces. That one was one of the more intense ones, in case you didn't notice. This next one, even by the title, you can tell it's called Still Life. So you can take a minute to be still, listen. This is by composer Augusta Reed Thomas, who is a permanent fixture here in the Chicago music world. If you look at her website, which, by the way, I hope you check out everyone's website after the concert today. All of the composers that you've heard today have wonderful, informative information about themselves and more about their music online. She is a composer at the University of Chicago. Sorry, I keep saying that. Professor at the University of Chicago, has built up a great center down there for creative composition, contemporary composition, and has done so many things to serve the music community here in Chicago. Right now, though, we're going to do one of the very small things. This is a small piece. It's very short. It's very still. I want to read from her preface a small bit of it. It just says here, the word eurythmy stems from Greek roots, meaning beautiful or harmonious rhythm. The innate forms living in sound within our souls and in the world become the basis for the art form of eurythmy. So there's another thing you can look up more about on the internet. I did want to also point out one other thing. She does note that in this piece, although she uses most of the notes in the chromatic scale, the note D natural never occurs, and you can imagine that that note D is just being still for the duration of the piece. Here is Still Life by Augusta Reed Thomas. And now we go on to a mountain adventure. The next piece is by Stacey Garup. She is proudly a freelance composer and very active around the country. She's had many festivals honoring her music and writes music for people. This, however, was inspired by a trip she was on. She was hiking on a mountain called Keyboard of the Winds. I can't think of a better name to inspire a composer than Keyboard of the Winds, carved into a mountaintop. So you can very clearly hear the winds and maybe mist and clouds swirling around this thing, and then a giant arrival at the top of the mountain after you've worked so hard to climb up. And then it kind of goes back into the mist of the winds. Just to remember, the Keyboard of the Winds is an actual place, which I personally would love to visit one day. But for now, I'll bring you the music of Stacey Garup, Keyboard of the Winds. All right, thank you, Stacy. I know both Stacy and Augusta Reed Thomas are watching online as we speak. So thanks again to all of you for being here. We have 2 more pieces left. The next one is one of those calm ones, a shorter piece, and I am the composer of that one. So as I mentioned, I'm a pianist and composer. I devote equal amounts of time to writing music and performing music. This next piece is from a set of 26 pieces. This is number 4 of them all. And I've been hard at work trying to finish those, among other pieces. I do have a CD of my string quartets available, and also a piece of cello piano music. I also play with a cello duo with my colleague Allison Berger. And interestingly enough, on this CD is a piece by George Flynn, teacher of Ms. Ginther. So again, a lot of community here in the music scene in Chicago, which is one of the reasons I love it here in Chicago, being a transplant. This next piece, you'll hear, again, a lot of stillness in this one. It's kind of a compare and contrast with the still life piece. I noticed also, I hadn't noticed it before, but I also use almost all 12 pitches in this piece, except for one. A sharp or B flat does not appear in this piece. So it's an interesting connection between the 2 shorter pieces on the second half of the program. You'll hear the same melody repeated 7 times that gets added to and layered on top of, and then in the end changes. So this is my own piece, number 4 of the set cycles. Thank you so much. It really is a joy to present all this music to you. I want to thank you all for being here. To take time out of your day just to sit and listen to music is a wonderful thing that we all could do more of. I really hope that you're inspired to hear more music by all of the composers on the program today. Like I said, they all have websites, they're all very findable online. I also wanted to mention a lot of the pieces here are commissions, meaning somebody said, hey, I like your music, I respect you as an artist, I'm going to pay you some money to write music. So all of the people here would love that to happen again in their careers. So just want to let you know that is a real thing that happens. Another real thing that happens is music festivals, and this is the Impromptu Fest. I have lots of information about that. The Impromptu Fest is something that I have put together over the last few years. It's happened 3 times already. This is the 4th time. It is a series of free concerts, just like today, but it's 15 concerts. This is happening next week from Tuesday through Saturday. There are 3 concerts each evening, and it's sponsored by New Music Chicago, which is one of those organizations, as I mentioned, creating the community among musicians here in Chicago. So please come up afterwards and get a little flyer from me. We would love to see you there too with more free music. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Fourth Presbyterian Church for having me here. It's been lovely. I do spend a lot of time here with the Sounds Good Choir, which I see many members in the audience, which is lovely to have you here. And thank you to all the composers for their music. And I think I'll leave you with one last thought, is that the best way to support any musician is to listen to their music. So that's that. And we have our final piece. We have Come Full Circle. This is Fantasy Negre by Florence B. Price. She has really hit her stride, even though she is unfortunately no longer with us. Her music has become incredibly on fire in Chicago in the recent 5 years, I would say, especially, although it has always been known and popular. Many of us, myself included, knew her music well before it became so popular recently. She worked here at Northwestern University for a brief period. She's not from Chicago, but lived most of her artistic life here. This piece is based on a spiritual called Sinner, Please Don't Let This Harvest Pass. And the first refrain of this spiritual is, Sinner, please don't let this harvest pass and die and lose your soul at last. So it's a very deep meaning, and it goes on in words, but the tune comes back and back and back in this fantasy you're about to hear. And lastly, I want to mention the dedication right here. It says, to my talented little friend, Margaret Bonds, who was the first composer on our program. Florence Price was the teacher of Margaret Bonds at Northwestern University for a while and mentored her as well. So this is our last piece. Thanks again for being here and for listening. I give you Florence Price, Fantasy Negre.